Hello, Colorado Crush fans. My name is Sean Liotta, and I'm the coach of the fans. And I'm joined today by Ray Austin, who's one of the co-founders of Project Franchise. And we have recently acquired the Colorado Crush franchise in the IFL, and it will be the second fan-run franchise in the IFL for the 2017 season. Today, we're bringing you the process of selecting your head football coach for the Colorado Crush, which is one of many decisions that you, as the fan, will be making that will determine the on-field success of the franchise. Today, we're joined by Coach Jose Jefferson, who recently participated in the first round of interviews for the Salt Lake City Screaming Eagles franchise, where he was one of 3 competitors who were narrowly separated by the voting margin. So what we are going to do at Franchise here today is bring you the other 2 candidates who narrowly missed out in that vote, and we're going to let them battle out for the position. So welcome, Coach Jefferson.
Hey, how you doing? Thank you.
Coach, first question I have for you is take me through a typical training camp process. You know, the amount of time, is it 2 weeks? 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. Kind of take me through that process, leading up to your first game.
Well, usually depending on scheduling, I like to get in about 2 weeks before the first game. I mean, due to budgets and the economics of the IFL, any further out than that, I mean, it's kind of not economically sound to do so. But that first week is usually 2-a-day practices. I mean, you'll weed out guys very quick. I mean, I let the team know that somebody will get cut within the first 48 hours when we go into camp. But it's basically that first week of 2-a-days is pretty tough. A lot of conditioning, a lot of mental training, and you have to know who's rowing in your same direction. So once the week is over, we kind of get into the chemistry building, the culture building, because after that first week, usually we have that game that following week, so it's all game prep. But it's a pretty hard hitting camp. I'm pretty physical. I don't use kids' gloves getting into the pads. As soon as I can get pads, they're on. I mean, I've even been claimed to have guys wear pads during the first meeting, but I mean, that's the way you need it, especially in the IFL, because you don't have a lot of prep time. Unfortunately, it's not like the NFL where you get a whole month to try to figure it out. I mean, you got basically 10 days to find 25 guys who I mean, it's tough to do that in 2 weeks to build chemistry, but that's what we do. And a lot of installation to see who can get it, who can understand playbooks, so you can understand schemes, and then mainly who can work together. A lot of times the most talented guy doesn't make the team because he can't work with the other guys around him. I've had that situation happen several times, but a lot of evaluation, a lot of grading. I'm a numbers guy in camp. I count drops, I count missed passes, I count missed tackles. I mean, everything's a numbers game in that camp. So when you have to release a guy, it's not a personal thing at that point in time. You have some concrete proof of your decision. Maybe not a decision he may like, but at least you can come to this player and say, hey, we needed you to do X, Y, Z, and you just did X, but somebody else is doing this. We're going to have to let you go, and that's the toughest part of the job. But that, honestly, it's the toughest part. The toughest 2 weeks of the season is that camp, because my intention is to make that tougher than any game we'll ever see. So it's nothing nice. It's not for the faint of heart. And if you didn't want anything that tough, then you can go play in the CIF or something. So, don't come to my camp.
Coach, to just kind of expand on that question, what would you say camp-wise and in-season typical length of your practice sessions?
One more time.
What's the typical length of your practice sessions, Coach? So how long are you actually on the field during camp and then during the season?
Probably in camp it's a full 2 hours. And just basically because you got more bodies, you're right about 40 bodies at camp, and so you gotta get guys in. Usually during the season, depending on the prep, I go about an hour and a half to an hour 45 minutes. We try to keep it like the NFL. Obviously with their player union, they have certain practice rules, but we're on the field for a short amount of time. So I like to get things going. It's on the hop. Guys get used to the pace. If you shorten the practice, I've known coaches to have 2-3 hour practices, and after that it just gets monotonous. I mean, you kind of lose guys mentally, and then if you're not getting it right at that time, then basically you're practicing bad habits at that point in time. You got to be on the clock, you got to teach tempo, and you got to have guys understand that that's the expectation. So like I said, camp, you go a little longer because you got to get those reps in for some of those guys, and then during the season, we're about being pros. You know, I'm not there to talk about your girlfriend, talk about your family, talk about what was on TV last night. I need an hour and 45 minutes total concentration, and afterwards we'll take care of all the rest of that stuff.
Thanks, Coach.
Coach, you have your whiteboard with you?
I got something pretty close, but I can manufacture one.
Okay. Diagram your first running and passing play that you're going to install.
Sure. Basically, what I would do is I would introduce a base dive and introduce the base passing concept, what we used to call read routes. I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, like I said, you just have to see who can understand base concepts before you get into the difficult stuff. But first is starting with the run. Guys have to understand all the blocking schemes that go on with the run. Obviously, with the short amount of field that we have, you have to understand run blocking in the first place. And this is just basically I'm doing the box with this, and I don't know if you can see this or not. This might be even a bad diagram there. Can you see that a little bit?
Yeah.
Yep, it's fine.
Okay. And basically that's a dive right. And like I said, entering that is mainly for the lineman, because basically if we're going to dive right, we're going to deuce the nose, and we're going to scoop up to the mic. We're going to leave this end alone, okay? Once the quarterback hands off to the back, the quarterback's going to boot out to hold the end. That's what we want to do, because we're going to check him. If he slides down like he should, then obviously we got a boot opportunity. If he wants to, run after, the dive here, like I said, we still have that boot opportunity. If he stays out there, that creates what we call a cutback. Back's going to push the hole. He's going to press that hole as far as he can, because obviously we got walls here, so you can't keep pressing it to the wall. Once we deuce here and we scoop and we press, if this end still stays there, it creates a natural cutback. We'll have blocking coming in from the receivers to pick up the safeties, but outside of that, he needs to press this. It's a patience back. A patience run, basically we have the back at about 7 yards. We want him deep. For the reason being is that the linebacker's at about 5 yards and we're at 7 yards. That means we got a little bit of extra steam coming in. And what we'll also do with that is we'll run the jet sweep with this action as well. So if we were running a dive this way, the jet sweep action will be coming in this way. So we will freeze this backer with that motion. And so that'll also hold this end as well too. And you can do it one of a few ways with that run. You can either have it as an option for the quarterback. A lot of people do it in the shotgun, and they use the jet sweep between the quarterback and the running back. I use a 3-way jet sweep with the quarterback, the receiver, and I also boot the quarterback. So getting back to this once again.
Coach, what do you think is your aiming point for the back there? What's his track on that play? What's he?
We want to run basically up the butt per se, or the inside cheek of the play side guard.
Now is he reading that nose, Coach? Like if that nose collapses that A gap, will that trigger the cutback? Is that what you have him reading?
Basically, we got a 2-on-1 anyway, because we're gonna push this. Like I said, when we're here,
sure,
we're gonna push this gap here. We already have the double team right there. This guy's strong, so we're gonna just push right here, and then once you're down the field, this Mike, if he's a good Mike, he's gonna try to push through to get there. So he's going to create the cutback by natural design. If he is playing actual, like I said, football technique is in an indoor football, playing true football technique sometimes hurts you. He is supposed to read and scrape. And so if he scrapes the way he's supposed to, he is creating a natural cutback because he's getting scooped. The backside end opens that up, and that's what's being held with the jet sweep motion here, and then the boot with the quarterback. So,
and I'm assuming, Coach, if the nose goes away, so then if the nose is going, slants the inside, the other lineman's going to go work to that linebacker.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's just a combo block that we work on that in practice. Obviously not a lot of these teams play straight up, but we have the advantage when you're sitting at a zero tech, there's no tilting or slanting right off the ball. So we can control him any way we want. And if he's behind the play, that's even better yet, because then we'll just press the hole and keep running forward. 9 times out of 10, it's like I said, in my years of doing it, this guy here usually reads most of the time, but when you do get that full line slant, the back has to be able to read that to the point of where, they're not looking for the cutback right away. They're reading the hole. But if the hole gets congested due to the bike scraping and reading, that cutback is going to be there. Plus, with the receivers coming back with the block, the only person he's got to contend for is a free safety.
And your pass?
Pass play is pretty basic. We have to understand coverage, and I want to see who understands coverage. Basically, I call this an 85 read, and it's about as basic as you can get. An 8 route to me is a fade, and a 5 route is a hitch. You can see this here. Okay. We have a 2x1 set, and it's an 85 read. 8 on the inside, 5's on the outside. Now, what I'm going to show you is the read portion of it. This is a play that you can call on the line of scrimmage, and it'll end up with different ways. 85 read, we are reading the coverage. So if you're in the middle here, and you have the 8 route, which is the fade, and your defender is playing you at about 12 yards, you can break that down to 5. Turn around and get the ball right away. And it's on the other side as well, too. If your stationary receiver is getting jammed up and he has a hitch route, a 5 route, then he can convert to the fade. So everybody,
if the quarterback recognizes cover 2, a zone coverage,
gotcha.
Halves, which one of these would they throw?
Well, our motion is probably going to be on this guy and on this guy. So he's going to read the middle of the field. If he's got a single high safety here, probably he's going to hit on the inside because he's probably got a corner over him and a corner over him. But like I said, this motion, depending on who's on these motions, is going to dictate where the ball is going to go. Plus, these guys, I want to see who's smart enough to be able to shut the ball down, because most of your corners start about 7 or 8 yards with a motion, just depending on who they're playing, film study or whatever. But if they're going to camp at 7 or 8 yards, most of these guys can run right by them. So that's why we call it a read route. It's all in lanes, which is simple. Mostly I don't care to run in lanes. And what I mean by running in lanes is there's no wiggle on these routes. They're just in lanes. However, depending on the coverage, some of these guys like to get wise and come up here and think they can strong arm a guy. You get a hands, some hands fightings here. Now he's gone and you have nobody on this side of the field. So the reason why, like I said, I introduced that because I want to see who can read coverage and who's able to adjust routes and where the quarterback is looking. 9 times out of 10, you won't probably see a cover 2. If you see 2 deep, we're probably just going to hit that stationary receiver right away, because with those guys bailed back, or the inside receiver, I should say, on this, if you're playing cover 2 and you have 2 deep safeties here, I'm going to hit this hitch here all day.
Coach, does that inside receiver have the option to break that flat across at all? Like no, okay.
No, that's a run and shoot portion of that offense. There's no need to. His thing is either you're going deep or you're going short.
Gotcha.
Yep. I mean, because
When
you're
that,
working. Oh, go
when
ahead.
that quarterback, when you say break off in those halves, when you think that quarterback would want that seam route?
No, no, no. We want the ball in his hands right away because those guys aren't going to break that far out on a cover two. Most likely, they're going to probably get depth. They're not going to get out. You see what I'm saying? And I know what
So is this a quick game concept for you, Coach? Is this a 3-step? Okay.
Yep, it's a 3-step game. We're getting the ball out as quick as possible.
Okay.
However, like I said, mostly with the stationary route, that guy's 9 times out of 10 is usually converting to a fade because the guys like to jam up this stationary guy. They want to put hands on him right there. So 9 times out of 10, he's converting. So once the quarterback gets to his 3 steps, that ball is usually in the air. It's either in the air here or it's short. So I mean, a lot of times teams don't get an opportunity to, adjust to that. But I see what you're saying though with the 2. But I think you're thinking more outdoor concept because on an outdoor 2, you're kind of working, back to the half to where you got to remember the half on this field is not that deep. So basically you're gaining depth. You see?
Right. Yeah. And you explained it being the quick game compared to a 5-step game, and that's a little different.
Correct.
So
correct.
That conversation starting us off at saying 3-step, like absolutely.
Yes.
Personally, I think even in the 2 deeps, there's still, I think that there's that quick, seam route throw if that jack linebacker is not getting any depth, but that's a call to make as an offensive coordinator. But
the only problem I have with the seam is that if they're playing a cover 2 and they sit that linebacker back, he's going to gain depth. That's your Tampa 2 right there. So you're throwing that.
I got You're right. No,
How about with your back, Coach, to handle that? You check your back out at all, or what do you do with the back there?
The back checks blitzer. He checks blitzer, and then he bails out to the single receiver side. And he and it's a quick check, obviously with the IFL rules. I mean, he can see if the backer's coming or not. Not a lot of delay blitzes in the IFL. Either he's committing or he's not. Once he does not commit, he bubbles back and basically gives us 4 receivers in the route. He doesn't need to pursue the line of scrimmage because we have such short routes, but it basically is a nice dump off if the quarterback gets heat. But on a 3-step drop, like I said, that ball is usually out. Probably by the time that 3rd step hits the ground, the ball should be out and should be gone.
Okay, great. My next question, Coach Ray. I don't want to cut you off, Ray. Did you have another one?
Go ahead.
Okay. My next question just deals with contingency. You know how the rosters are in the IFL. You have limited numbers. Things of that nature. So I'm going to give you a situation just to kind of see how you handle it. Your starting left tackle gets injured early in the first half of the ball game.
Okay.
Our backup left tackle is a defensive lineman.
Okay.
Now, he can run block adequately, but he's a liability in pass protection. The other team knows it. They've got their best D-end rushing against them. How do you schematically handle that? What do you do to make an adjustment for that liability?
Probably what I'll do is I'll probably flip-flop the guards or the tackles per se. I'd probably put my right starting guard at the left, just simply because he's probably a better left guard than the guy who's the backup. So, and then I'd put the weaker guy on the front side. And then in that case, the quarterback can obviously see the heat coming if he's a right-handed quarterback. Also, you can chip the back as well. I'm not big on slide pro on IFL just for the simple fact of, I mean, that's a big AFL thing because the backer's, a yard or 2 away. So to slide makes sense. But when the backer's at 5 yards of depth, you don't need to slide. Usually with the backs, I always teach them inside to out. So if that backer is coming, usually, I joke with the running backs all the time and says usually backers on backs equals sacks. But, you have to kind of man up, or you put the back into the route and you're really forcing the defense to cover him either with the strong safety or that running back or that linebacker breaking off of his blitz. But I'm always going to put the weaker guy on the front side so the quarterback can see him. If we have a more mobile quarterback, that's probably to the detriment of defense of giving up that contain if the guy's beating our weaker linemen. So he'll always play front side and we'll chip. So, I mean, I've been in that situation before. We've even gotten to the point to where we putting our linebacker in as the running back and our running back in as the weak side receiver and run jet sweep and then blocked with 4. So, I mean, there's ways to get around it. I mean, that's more arena style, but it depends on who you're playing and what your other lineup what's the rest of your lineup looks like as well.
Great. Thanks, Coach.
Coach, so the franchise project, the product, all about it. That the fans are going to be 100% involved, and you will have the ability to have your own scouting department. So how are you going to work with the fan scouts to find the next diamond in the rough that can in an open tryout, or whether it's a link that's sent to you?
I have a big Rolodex of players. A lot of times, well, I mean, I guess I'm thinking about this. It's almost like with the coaching staff. I give the staff a plethora of guys, about 4 or 5 guys, that tell them to watch film, and I ask what they think. I already know what I think, in terms of what we need to get done in terms of our offense and our defense, our special teams. But basically, if they understand what we need to do on offense, then they'll understand what type of personnel we need. So, and I guess thinking about it in terms of fan input, I mean, I'm going to look at everybody because this game is so different. It's a hybrid game. It's a speed game. I have, like I said, enough players to where we're just talking about this the other day, to where my biggest worry is cutting guys that'll go somewhere else to hurt us. And that's probably going to be the biggest challenge with the fans, is that I'll probably give them a good number of players to pick from, and it's going to be a difficult decision. And that's what we want. We don't want, it's not we want to play this guy because he's from XYZ University. It's not where you play, it's how you play. And they're going to have some difficult decisions. And like I said, my biggest worry is cutting a guy that can go somewhere else and hurt us.
Okay. Coach, another question I have, and this kind of piggybacks on my previous question. How do you, once you have these players, you've got guys that are new to the indoor game, because obviously the IFL veteran rule limits, how many, a lot of the true veterans you can have. How do you develop these guys in the limited amount of practice time that you have, the actual on-field time you alluded to during training camp? How do you develop these guys and teach them the game?
Well, the first thing I look at is where they went to school. I don't try to fool myself. Perfect example, if I have a guy from Alabama, he's coached by Nick Saban, and it'd be facetious for me to think that I'm a better coach than Nick Saban, and I'm gonna teach this guy something that he hasn't learned. No, I want to find out exactly what he knows, and I'm going to take his talents and put it to the indoor game. And the thing that we do, at least I should say I do as an indoor coach, is whatever skills they have, I'm going to try to hone them to the little tips and secrets we have. I mean, nobody's played indoor football in high school or in college, so for them to come in and to be an ace at this thing, it's not going to happen. So until they run into a wall, they're not going to know. They can understand angles outdoor, but angles indoor is totally different. But you have to get into the mental part. That's where the film comes in, to where you can get on the practice field and, catch a hitch route, run a lead, run a pitch. But until they can actually see, well, wow, I'm running out of space. What do I do here? Or, you know what, the defense is outdoors, like you're talking, Ray. Okay, cover 2, they're going to bail a lot differently indoors than they are outdoors. I mean, you're not going to see a ton of cover 2 in indoor football just simply because you leave too much space. So yeah, like I said, it's a learning curve. But the nice thing about it is that since these guys have never played indoor football, they don't have any bad habits. And sometimes the veterans get these bad habits. A perfect example is a lot of veteran linemen like to watch the motion guys before, so they can get a jump on the snap. And that's when you tighten up your cadence game and your motion game, and you can get 5 yards anytime you want it because these guys are going to try to go off your motion. And so those are the little tips you teach your quarterback, and your receivers when you're running your offense. So I'm a teacher. Before I'm a coach, I'm a teacher. So these guys are going to know as much as I do, when they get on the field. So 2 weeks is, like I said, it's not a lot of time, but sometimes you got to learn on the run. But they're going to go with as much information as I can give them.
Let's talk. How do you instill in your players the importance of being a good citizen and a positive ambassador for not only IFL but also the Colorado?
I guess I like guys to be involved in the community. I like guys to be true to their word. And the thing is a lot of these guys, this is a testing ground to get to a higher level. And the main thing I want to teach these guys is to be a pro. Nobody likes the meeting portions of football, but it's a have to do. There's the have tos and the want tos. The want tos is playing the game. The have tos are going to the meetings. The have tos are keeping your nose clean. The have tos is being the pro when nobody's looking. And first and foremost, I have to be the example. I have to be the first guy at the meeting. I got to be the first guy at practice. I got to be the last guy at practice. I got to be the guy cleaning up the locker room. I got to be the guy that's out in the community. I got to be the guy that's pumping up the fans. I have to explain the losses and lead the celebration on the victories. And they're going to go as I go. And I tell guys all the time, the only thing I've asked you is keep up with me. Because if not, that sensation that you feel in your butt is my foot. I'm very adamant about going and being active and being just as excited about things as I can. But the guys will feed off of me. It's like parenting. I'm not a do as I say, not as I do type of person. I'm going to talk the talk. I'm going to walk the walk, and I'm going to challenge guys to, be as good of people on the field as they are, or off the field as they are on the field. So I don't worry about it. And if they can't, then, you got to cut a guy loose, and that's unfortunate. But we're in the mentoring business. This is what we do, on the field, off the field. And like I said, I guess ever since I've been a father, it's even been more so. I mean, before I had kids, I've always mentored, but I guess I never looked at it as always, I have somebody else's son. And I look at it, how would I want my son to be coached? And, this is what I do to these guys. I tell them, I'm your best friend. However, I'm also going to be the iron fist that's going to come down on you as well, too.
Okay, Coach, the IFL season is a grind. You're talking about a long, number of games, playoffs, all the way up to the United Bowl. How do you ensure that your guys with the small roster are in optimum condition, optimum shape as you start to get towards the back end of that schedule, which is so important because as you've seen, I've seen in many years in this game, a lot of times it's not the best team per se that wins it. A lot of times it's
right.
Who's playing the best at the end of the year, who's the healthiest, who's in the best condition. So how do you handle that? First part of the question. Second part, how do you handle your bye week?
Well, I'm pretty fortunate that I've been through that before. I mean, I played in the UIF championship, the first United Bowl against Sioux Falls, and we were 15-3, and not including the bye week. So that was about a 20-week season. A lot of the times it's all depending on your practicing and your conditioning. I like I said, it's being a track athlete. And a track coach, when I coached in high school, you learn how to taper athletes, making sure that they're peaking at the right time. And so during that season, we grinded really good in camp, and in that first week, some guys were a little bit beat up. And then for the first quarter of the season, we were still grinding. And then you kind of taper off when you start getting into that nice playoffs, that scenario to where you're going to start needing some extra guys. But that year that we went to the championship, I think we had one major injury, and it was a shoulder. Outside of that, I got guys into the pool. I had guys stretched. You got guys off their feet. The conditioning changed because it was more core and strength as much as, receivers and DBs run at practice all the time. I don't need to continue to run them after practice. I need to get their core straight. I need to get their back strong. I need to get them in the weight room. I need to get them in the pool, get some resistance. During the bye weeks, depending on where the bye weeks are, sometimes if they're real early, I'll keep the guys. It's just because you play 2 games or 3 games and then you get a bye. Depending on what your record is at that time, good or bad, you still want to keep that momentum going. Obviously, we all want late bye weeks, but if the bye week was later on, I still practice a couple of days in that beginning of the week, and I told the guys to get out of there because obviously at that point in time they were there 9 or 10 weeks, and it was time to them just to get away from everybody else, whether it be go home, see loved ones, or just get away from football. Because if you're at week 10 and with 6 more games to go, it's a grind. We're not going to, try to burn guys out. But the main thing that I did was I made it fun for guys. And once it stops being fun, I don't want to do it anymore. And I see guys, I hear guys, not wanting to do it anymore because it's not fun. That's why a lot of guys get out of it on any level, because it's not fun anymore. Your body is beat up or whatever the case may be. But the guy, like I said, once again, I have to be the beacon for that. They have to see me, enjoying myself. If they don't see me enjoying myself during that 18-week grind, I can't expect anybody else to. So I have to condition myself, take time off, get alone time. And I tell guys all the time after practice, it's nice to hang out with the guys and build that chemistry, but you also need to recharge your own batteries. Go take a nap, go for a walk, go watch a movie by yourself or do whatever, but get in the right frame of mind, because this is your family for the next 20 weeks. And love it or hate it, you're going to be with some guys who, once the ball's kicked off, they're going to have your back. So I just try to tell guys, pace yourself. It's a marathon, not a sprint. If you start 0-3, it's not the end of the world. If you're 3-0, it's not that you're going to win the championship. No one wins the championship being 3-0 or 0-3. So I want to be there in the end. I want to make a difference. And so guys have to understand that things happen and things change.
Will there be any talk? This is often on that same question, but not my question though. But will there be any talk with you with nutrition and even that, like you said, sports performance? But I'm a big fan of playing all the quarters. Guys that finished all 4 quarters.
Right.
And my concern, and I'm not saying it's a concern for you, but my concern is I would want my team to be conditioned, to make sure that they play 4 quarters. Would you customize that if that was ended up being the case?
Right. One of my team goals, when I put together team goals, is to do anything it takes to win the last 2 minutes of the game. You're going to be tired. It's football. You're not going to feel right all the time. And at that point in time, like I tell guys all the time, there's a point to where personal pride has to kick in, to where you can count on your conditioning, you can count on your toughness, but your personal pride is going to kick in to where you're just going to beat that guy because you want to, and the conditioning helps with that. And that's the mental part of it. If you feel like you're in good shape, then 9 times out of 10 you are. If you can sit there and have the same demeanor, because I see it's so funny when I watch guys in any football game, NFL, college, IFL, they're jumping around and they're barking and doing whatever before the ball's kicked off in the first quarter. And those guys are faded by the time the fourth quarter comes around, and they're wondering how come, they're not the player they want to be. And I don't tolerate that. I tell guys, you need to play, 65 minutes, extend yourself out and leave everything you have on the field so there's no regrets. But my conditioning program, I've learned nutrition over the years, and I should say learn because I know my nutrition. I'm a little guy, I don't need that many carbs. I don't need that many calories to go. But when you have big guys that need a lot of calories, their conditioning is a little different than the smaller guys. So I've learned that and I've adapted it. But the main thing with these guys is making sure their legs are good, making sure their core is good, and making sure their strength. They need to have the same measurable strength, if not a little bit more, from the beginning to the end of the season. And that's my responsibility as a coach, to be sure that they're in those lifting sessions, that they're taking care of their bodies. So, and that goes with all of us. It's a grind on me too. Trust me, standing on the turf. As much as I'm excited about the opportunity for this job, I'm not looking forward to standing on the turf a lot. So I have to condition myself too, or the bus rides. That's that's a tough grind. And
Yeah.
so I condition right there with them, core, back, running, lifting. And that's why I say when they see me out there ripping and running around, it's contagious.
Yeah.
Energy is contagious. So
we got to go back to the yellow paper. So diagram.
Sorry.
No, bro, I'm just messing with you. Diagram how you would defend a 3-by-1 first down in midfield.
3-by-1 first down midfield. Alrighty. Getting on my defensive tip, huh? Are we in shotgun or just
yeah.
Does it matter?
Shotgun, yeah.
All right, I'm gonna get a little scribble here because I already wrote the quarterback in there. 3-by-1, obviously to the field, I imagine. Okay. All righty. Now that I get all the stuff here. There's a few things we can do here. I like to mix some things up myself, but like I said, just can you see this? Is that?
Yes. Put it up a little bit, just to the left.
To my left.
Perfect.
Okay. As you can see, I have kind of like a 3-over-3 on the trip side, and then I have a 1-over-1 now. I put two guys on the inside here because this is where, like I said, depending on the quarterback, if he's a mobile quarterback, we'll probably spy him with the backer. You can blitz, and really put some heat on him. So that's an option as well too. If you're midfield, to me, I'd rather play back, especially if it's a first down, because it looks like he's probably going to try to, to me, if you're in a formation like this and you're trying to mix this up a little bit. So you can play cover 3 over the top if you need to. I would back these guys out and then have these guys into the boundary. This backer is already into the boundary. So I would have him stand fast through the boundary, but he would be spying the quarterback for the run. And then I would probably, like I said, I would probably play straight up. You could slant towards the 3 receivers if you wanted to, depending on which hash you're on, because you got the backer on the weak side here. That's an option as well too if you want to force the action that way. I would zone this, quite honestly. I think a lot of people, you can combo this. Like a lot of people I see man this in the back, and then they flow him here, and they roll the coverage over. It's
a pressure, coach. Would you pressure that?
Not in midfield. I'm always been the bend but don't break mentality, because that there's some chest pounding right there. Okay, you're a midfield, and I'm gonna come up and press you, and I'm gonna push you, and I'm gonna force you to do something. I don't need to do that. You're gonna come to me anyway. I want to get you about the 10-yard line. then I'm going to start gambling with you. I'm going to take some risks there. I'm going to press you because that field's shorter. But we'll put it this way. I look forward offensively. I look forward to when a defense pressures me in the middle of the field, because that means that's one less guy that is covering ground that you're giving up. So like I said, I would back out of it and let these guys run all their crossing routes and pick routes underneath, and then, have a meeting at the ball. Because if you're backed off, if you're looking at it on a 3-by-1.
So Coach, could we say kind of your philosophy is to make the offense snap the football? I had an old defensive coordinator. He'd always say that. He'd say, make them snap it. I don't care if it's on the 2-yard line, 1-yard line. Make them snap the ball again. Bad things can happen. So that's
and it's not so much the bad things could happen. It's just that, to me, it's all about, it's a ground game. It's a ground game. I had a defensive coordinator. The team was on the 5-yard line coming out, and he wanted to play press coverage on guys. And I'm thinking, if you did that to a guy like me, we're going deep all day, and we're probably gonna come up pretty good. I want guys to, our guys are gonna know how to tackle. Our guys are gonna know how to run to the ball. So if you're gonna throw underneath, we're gonna make you pay. And we're gonna continue to do that. But then once you get underneath that 10-yard threshold to where it's like putting a watermelon in a bunny hole, because it's too tight down there, that's when we're going to squeeze you. But I have no interest in squeezing a defense or squeezing an offense in the middle of the field, to where there's a lot of mistakes that could be made on the defense as well, especially with forward motion. Like I said, I would even, I've seen guys drop linemen. I'm not really big in dropping linemen, especially if they can get home. I just, they're D linemen for a reason. They're there to pressure the quarterback. That's where your pressure comes. And as long as that space looks small when you have people in it, if you're narrowing down the space for people, then it just makes it so much easier for the offense. That's what I look forward to. I look forward to people wanting to pressure, to make you think that, well, if we blitz you, then you're not going to know what to do. I know exactly what to do. I'm going to throw the ball where you came from. But if you're in my space, that means I have to create space. And if you're a receiver, and if you're looking at this, a 3-by-1, correct? Can you see this?
Mm-hmm.
This field is 25 yards wide, 27 yards wide, correct? I got 4 receivers out there, so that means I got 6 yards to work with. 3 yards to my left, 3 yards to my right to manipulate a route. And if you were a defensive guy, you would probably just take one guy and jam him into another with such short space. And I've seen it done. So, like I said, let them run their crossers underneath. We're going to gain depth. And then if you think you can throw it over the top of us to one guy, we'll take our chances with that, because if you're holding on to the ball that long, I'm going to have defensive linemen that are going to be in your ear hole.
Well, Coach, Colorado they've already got a huge fan base already. Mm-hmm. And again, fans will be a part of what we're doing. You get it. How are you going to be able to handle social media, good and bad?
Well, I guess to me, I don't take the cheese either way. You're not as bad as people say you are, and you're not as good as people say you are. I'm always open to people's opinions. We become a society of opinions more so than fact, and everybody has a right to their opinions, but that doesn't mean their opinions are right. Either way. But I guess to me, I've always been a type of person to where, I guess now social media is a little different now, because like I said, back in the day, people can be phantom names and say anything they want. Now you pretty much have to expose yourself to, get on social media to say things about people. And, people are going to love us when we win. They're going to trash us when we lose. My main goal with that is to stay the course and stay true to me, and then take care of my guys. When we win the game, they're going to get all the glory. They're the guys doing the work. And when we lose, I can take that heat, because obviously I didn't prepare them the way they needed to be prepared, and I can handle that. and people are going to say what they're going to say, and I enjoy the fan concept just for the simple fact of fans, they want to get behind the scenes and do those things, but there's a lot of things that go with it. I mean, if you're going to be involved, that means understanding the culture, and the culture that I'm going to bring is very positive. We're going to work hard on and off the field. We're going to demand excellence on and off the field. And the negativity, it doesn't really have a place where we're at. So anybody who's going to bash us anyway probably isn't a true fan of ours in the first place. So that doesn't really bother me. And like I said, I've heard every negative thing there is ever to hear from my parents, not because they were mean, it's because they said one day somebody will say those things to me, and you need to be prepared how to handle them.
Good answer. Ray, do you have any other further questions?
That's my last question, Coach. You have the floor. Talk to the Colorado fans. Tell them why you should be the new head coach.
I bring a lot of experience. With me, you get a winner. With me, you get a guy who understands the IFL game, who's going to bring a lot of players, who's going to bring a lot of excitement. I'd put my resume up against anybody's in terms of this game of not only understanding it, but mentoring players, moving players on. In terms of the type of person I am, I'm very approachable. I just think I bring a whole bunch to the table to where it's not going to be an experiment. Now, obviously, the fan voting and everything and the fans being involved is a new thing, but with me, it's not I don't see us as an expansion team with a guy like me, because I was just talking to a friend of mine, and he said something pretty profound. He goes, if you lose, everyone's going to say, well, it's an expansion team. And if you win, they're going to say, well, because he's a veteran and he should win. So I just said, I'll just eliminate the middleman and we'll just go win. So I come into Colorado. It's going to be a great time. We're going to raise the roof. We're going to bring in quality players. And I'm going to be a coach that you're going to be proud to say that belongs to the Colorado Crush.
Thank you, Coach. Coach, on behalf of our entire team at Project Franchise and the Colorado Crush, we want to again thank you for the opportunity to again interview with us for the position. For all the Colorado Crush fans out there, you will be able to vote for Coach Jefferson at coloradocrushfootball.com. You will have a link there that's going to have all of Coach Jefferson's previous interviews that he did as well, as well as his background information, so you can really learn more about him if you didn't follow along with the initial voting process there in Salt Lake City. And again, we want to thank you on behalf of our entire team and wish you best of luck, Coach.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
You bet.